Hello, I would like to give you an overview of the assignment. The purpose of the assignment is to learn how to use variables and to perform calculations. I am not overly concerned with how the output looks on the web page. Therefore, we will use document.write unless you want to use the document object model, because document.write is easier to work with in the beginning. What we are doing is we are going to perform some calculations and write some information to the web page. You are not being graded on your HTML. So we are given the initial cost of a product, and so somehow we want to say on the web page the initial cost, and we want to output 200. Now we know that is a fixed value, but you always want to retrieve the value from a variable. You always want to put values in variables that you're working with in the event that that value changes. Now the discounted cost, that's going to be a calculation, and we want to show that on the page. The tax, all right, we're going to be given a tax bracket, and I believe it is 7.75. Here again, that could vary, it could change, so it's best to put that in a variable. So the 13.05 will be a calculation. So we're going to be given an initial value, we're going to be given the tax, we're also given an employee discount. Notice I didn't ask you to write that to the page. So we're going to get the discounted cost, then we're going to get the tax. There's also a shipping value, which is $5, and that's not on the page either. Not to say that you can't write it if you wish. Then we're going to do some calculations and get the final cost, and then the final cost added with the shipping. And as long as you're pretty much in the ballpark with what you're putting on the page, I'm fine with it. If you if you just do the final cost with the shipping and not the final cost, you know, that'll work. Alright, so let's take a look at a sample, and I do have sample code in the zip file. Let's take a look at the sample so we can learn how to get started with this. Alright, so, and I'm using the Komodo editor. I like this a lot. Works very well with JavaScript because it highlights, it will redline syntax errors. Alright, so here we have our head section. Okay, we have an HTML5 document. And right now I have some givens. I'm given the cost of rice. So the rice is $1.50 a pound. And you don't need to put the other zero behind it. Alright, so here we have var, the JavaScript keyword, and we're going to create whatever meaningful word or phrase or term to hold that value. Notice the way I have it written, rice with it, and the capital C for the second word. That is called camel casing. I could have done this. I could have done this. You never want to do that. You do not want spaces. Notice what happened. Look at this red line. It's telling me that's not allowed. No spaces in variable names. The convention that you'll see a lot is camel casing. You're not required to do it this way. Alright, so we're assigning, and here's how variables work. You assign what is on the right to what is on the left. So this variable, rice cost, now holds the value of 1.5. We have a semicolon at the end of this statement. This is a JavaScript statement, and they should always end in a semicolon. If you omit the semicolon, it may still work. It is technically correct to do that. Okay, so rice costs $1.50 a pound. We have another variable, so we use our var keyword, and we're going to call this rice QTY for quantity equals 2. Alright, so I bought 2 pounds of rice, or I'm going to buy 2 pounds of rice, and it costs $1.50 each. Okay, I also get a discount. So now I'm setting up a third variable, and I'm calling this employee discount, and you want to give meaningful names to your variables so you know what they're basically contain, and it's 0.05. So that's a 5% discount. Lastly, there is a shipping cost. So we create our fourth variable, shipping equals 5. Notice in our numeric variables, we don't need the leading zeros. We don't put dollar signs or anything. So whenever you're working with a program, it's always best to upfront create the variables, especially if they're given and they have some kind of value to start out. So this is called initializing. All right, not only did we declare this variable, but we also initialized it. So we gave it an initial value. You know, I could have done this. And let me just do a quick copy paste. All right, Control C. Here we are, Control V. I could have done this. I could have declared all my values, all my variables, excuse me, and then later on put values. And sometimes you need to do this. Sometimes you don't know what the value is going to be, what value it's going to hold right away, and you're just getting your variables set up. So you want to set up as much as possible. And let me just Control Z all this. All right, there we are. All right, so that's all we have. This is the head section. All right, this is where our processing goes, and we're going to be writing to the body. So far in the body section, all I have is an H2, details of your purchase, and we're going to be writing in the opening and closing script tags inside the body using document.write only for this assignment. The next assignment, we will be learning to use a document object model. So if I save this and I were to preview this, and right now we have nothing here. All right, so what we want to find out first, we want to find out what is the initial cost of the purchase. All right, so if the rice costs $1.50 a pound and we bought 2 pounds, we need a variable to hold that calculation. So I'm going to start out with var, and I'll call that purchase. And we're going to be using this variable, rice cost. And watch how nice this editor is. I start typing rice. Look how nice. It knows that I have a variable there already. Is that not awesome? And I select it, I hit the enter key. Helps you so you don't have typos. The rice cost times, that's the asterisk, okay, the rice quantity. So let me start typing in again. This is my IntelliSense coming in. Very awesome. All right, now what you want to do when you start writing, you want to write one line of code and then test it. Don't sit there for a half an hour hacking away at a program and then decide to test it, and then everything is wrong and you have no idea where your mistakes are. Catch the mistakes as you make them. All right, so let's save this. I can manually, all right, and put this in my head, 1.5 times 2. Oh, okay. All right. How do I test this? I need my best friend, the alert. Look, it's going to put the alert in there for me. Is that not cool? Okay. You want to, there we go. You want to always test the value of your variables. Now, I could have done this for this also, just to make sure that it's holding the correct variable. Doesn't hurt. It's a little cumbersome, but it's not a bad idea. I really recommend using an alerts, because when you send me back your file and you have all these mistakes and you don't know where the mistakes are and I don't see any alerts, I know that you just didn't even try doing it the proper way. Okay, so let's save this and let's launch. There we go, 3. Okay, so we're on target. Now, something else I like to do, because after a while you get all these alerts and they're kind of like meaningless. All right, what I like to do is concatenate a string inside this. Okay, purchase cost, purchase cost is, there we go. Okay, so this is a string. It's text concatenated with this value. So in my alert, I'm going to see the purchase cost is, because that's a string literal, and the value of purchase, which is actually 3. right? $3, correct. And that's a little bit more meaningful way, and this is covered in the book and in chapter 4. It's not really debugging, but it's a good way of testing using the alert method of the window object. There we go. Okay, very good. Now, you always, when you're finished with all this, you always can just go back and comment it out. It's not a bad idea to leave it in your code for a little while until you're finished. Okay, all right, the next thing we need to find out is the discount. All right, so we know that the discount is 0.05, but we want to find out the discount on the purchase. All right, so we need another variable. Okay, and we'll call it this discount. Okay, and it's going to be a calculation. It's going to be the purchase. There we go. Times, that's the asterisk, the employee discount. Okay, the employee MP, there we go. And there's my semicolon. All right, so let me just copy and paste my alert. Copy and pasting works. The discounted purchase is what? It's this discount, right? It's going to be this variable here. So let's change our variable. There we are, this discount. And let's save this and let's run it. Oh my goodness, look at that. All right, now ultimately when we write to the page, we don't want to see all these 12 decimal places. Now I could round that off now using the toFix method. All right, but what technically will happen is the toFix method actually converts this value to a string, and then when we try to do further calculations it will concatenate it. So the toFix is a formatting method, so I want to do all the formatting at the very end. I just prefer doing it that way. I think it's a little bit easier. Okay, another thing, let's look at an error message. All right, even though we see this error message here, let's see what happens when we load this in the browser. Notice there's nothing there. All right, so a lot of times if there's an error on your page, you just won't see any JavaScript code, period. All right, so let's go back to our code here. And as I said earlier, the red line will show you. Okay, continuing on, now we need the final cost. Let's comment this out. Create another variable, final. I'm going to spell that right. Okay, so the final cost is the purchase minus, okay, this discount. There we go. Okay, plus the shipping. All right, there's S. There we go. Okay, now we have a minus and we have a plus. All right. Even though JavaScript will do this in the correct way, all right, it's always a good idea to use parentheses. Okay, so you probably want to do this. All right, so what we have, first we're going to subtract the discount from the purchase, then we're going to add the shipping. It's a little bit more logical manner of doing things. All right, so now we need to do an alert here. Okay, the final cost. And we're going to replace this, and that's going to be final. There we go. Okay, so let's save this, and let's go back here. There we go, 7.85. All right, let's take a look at what we're going to write to the page now. There's several ways of doing it. So first of all, let's just do the purchase. Okay. Now, I can say document.write the purchase cost is, all right, concatenated with, just like we have in our alert, okay, the purchase cost is, and that's the variable purchase. There we go. And let's put, now even though this space doesn't matter, it looks nice. And by the way, notice where this double quote is. To the left of it, I want to put a space so that these words don't merge together. Okay, so I can do this, document.write, the purchase cost is, now I'm going to concatenate this, and you can put HTML in here also. All right, and I need, that's a literal, okay, it's going to look at that like it's text, and there's my, okay, so this is one way. I can write out everything using document.write. All right, so if I were to save this, and let me go back and comment out that alert, and I'm going to save this, and we're going to go back. Okay. There we go. Now, if I wanted to put the dollar sign in front of that, I'm going to put it right there. You don't have to do that. I'm just showing you. All right, there we go. Okay. Now, another way that we could do this, we could write individual scripts. We could do this. I could say, and we'll do the final cost this way. All right, we'll say. Now notice I'm out of the script block. I'm out of the script block here. Okay, we do have a break. All right, let me just comment that out. All right, so I can say the final purchase cost is, now I can put a script. There we go. Okay, at this point I can say document dot, there it is, document dot, come on, give me a right, I'll start with a W, there you go, alright. Now I want the value of the final, alright, so what was that? That was final cost. Alright, so if I start writing final here, F-I-N, there it is, final cost. Okay, and now we're going to put our dollar, well, let's do with and without the dollar sign. So we have text, and where we need a variable value, we have the opening and closing script tag. Now, it all has to technically go on the same line, and I'll show you that in a minute. I mean, it doesn't have to, but I'll show you what happens if it doesn't. All right, and it's only a dollar sign issue. All right, so let's go back and let's take a look at this. All right, so there we go. There's the final purchase. All right, back to the code here. All right, now if I wanted to put a dollar sign next to it here, all right, that will merge right next to it. It's going to look good. Okay, here we go. And by the way, it's a good idea to always pop open the browser. You know, there is a way of looking at this in the editor with a split screen, but sometimes it just doesn't do it justice. If I were to put this script block on the next line, it will actually put a space there. The carriage return is interpreted by a space. So just to show you this, preview here. So see, we have a space there. So, and here I did it in the editor. All right, so let me close that. Oh, here we go. All right, so you can take this, Control X, and you can just put that right outside there, and then we're in business. All right, so supposing we wanted to write out the this discount. All right, remember that was like 10 decimal places. All right, so we're going to need a break. Okay. And now let's say this discount, this discount is, all right, so now we need our script. Okay, I see the document, D-O-C, document, okay, dot right, W, very good. Okay, so here we are. And I believe it was this discount, right? Yeah, okay. Alright, so let's just take a look at that before we... Oh, notice, my semicolon's in the wrong place. There we go. Okay. That's why I like this editor. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Here we go. Okay. Alright, let's round this thing off because it's going to look a lot nicer. Alright, so this is the dot to fix. And I'm going to just bring this down to the next one. Let me just move this over. Alright, here we go. That's the method. That's object essentially dot method to. And there we go. There's to fixed. Okay, I want to round it up to 2 decimal points. Okay, there I am. I will save and I will execute. There we go. It looks a lot nicer. Alright, so you want to, in the event that you have long decimals, you want to do that at the very end. You don't want to do that before you calculate, because then you're going to be concatenating. At this point, it looks at this as a string. Alright, so this is an overview of the assignment. This sample that I did is available for you, except that I'm using beans and rice, so it's a little bit extra there. Okay, so thank you very much, and let me know if you have any questions.